I was just checking my bank app, then I saw another transfer to my mom. Again. I said, "Why do you need this much?" She laughed, "You owe me." But when I asked what for, she said. I didn't answer her right away after that. I just stood there in my kitchen in Aurora, phone pressed against my ear, staring at nothing while her words sat there, heavy. "You owe me everything." Not, "Help me." Not, "I need this." Not even, "Please." Everything. I swallowed and said, "I've already been sending money, Mom." She sighed like I was being difficult. And? That doesn't even begin to cover it. Cover what? That was the first time that question actually formed clearly in my head. Not the usual guilt response. Not the automatic, "Okay, how much do you need?" Just, "What exactly am I paying back?" I said it out loud this time. "What am I covering exactly?" There was a pause. Not long, but enough. "Expenses," she said. "Things you wouldn't understand." Same answer. Same vague tone. But it didn't land the same anymore. Because now I was looking at my bank app. At the list of transfers. Dates, amounts, all lined up like a pattern I never questioned before. I had sent her money 3 times that month already. Rent had just come out of my account 2 days ago. My own groceries were stretched. I had even skipped replacing my work shoes because I told myself I'd wait another month. And still, she was asking again. "Mom," I said, slower this time, "I just sent you money last week." "And I needed it," she snapped. "Do you think I enjoy asking you? Do you think I want to depend on my own daughter like this?" That hit exactly where it always did. Because she was right, in a way. She was my mother. I was supposed to help. That's what I'd always been told. But something about the way she said it, like I was the one putting her in that position, made my chest tighten. "I'm not saying you shouldn't," I said. I need to understand where it's going." Silence. Then a soft laugh. Not amused. Not kind. "So now you don't trust me." There it was. That familiar turn. I closed my eyes for a second. "That's not what I said." "It sounds like it," she replied. "After everything I've done for you, you're questioning me over money." Everything. That word again. I leaned back against the counter, pressing my palm flat against the cold surface like I needed something solid to stay steady. "Mom," I said, "I'm just asking a question." "And I already answered you," she said, sharper now. "If you don't want to help, just say that." That wasn't fair. And for the first time, instead of rushing to fix it, I felt that clearly. "I didn't say that either," I said. "Then prove it," she said immediately. "I need the money by tomorrow." There it was. No space. No conversation. Just a demand with a deadline. My eyes dropped back to my phone. The number she asked for was still sitting in my messages. It was higher than usual. Higher than anything she'd asked for before. My chest felt tight again, but not in the same way as before. Not guilt. Not exactly. More like pressure building. "I need to think about it," I said. The words felt strange coming out of my mouth. Like I wasn't supposed to say them. There was a long pause. Then her voice changed. "Think about it," she repeated, quieter. That quiet was worse than yelling. "After everything I've spent on you," she said slowly, "you need to think about helping your own mother?" And, just like that, I was 9 years old again. Standing in the doorway of a store, holding a pair of shoes I didn't want to ask for anymore. "Do you know how much I've spent on you?" she used to say. Back then, I never answered. Because I didn't know. And it never felt like a question anyway. It felt like a reminder. A warning. A number I could never see but was somehow always growing. "I'm not saying no," I said, my voice quieter now. I need to figure things out on my end too." "You mean your new job?" she said. I froze. I hadn't told her much about it. Just that I got promoted. That things were a little better. I didn't tell her how much better. "Don't act like I don't know," she continued. "You think I don't hear things? You think I don't know you're doing fine now?" That didn't make sense. Who would she even hear that from? "Mom, I'm not." "You're comfortable," she cut in. "Meanwhile, I'm struggling here, and you're hesitating." That word again. Struggling. But now it didn't sound the same. Because I was looking at my account, at my own numbers, at how tight things still were for me. I wasn't comfortable. I was just stable. Barely. "I'll call you back," I said. "You're really going to hang up on me like this?" she asked. "I just need a minute," I said. Another pause. Then, very calm, very controlled, she said, "I see." And the line went dead. I stayed there for a while after that. Phone still in my hand. Screen dimming, then lighting up again as notifications came in. I didn't check them. I just stood there and replayed the conversation. The words. Everything. Because something about it felt different this time. Not louder. Not worse. Just clearer. Like I was hearing it without the filter I'd always had. I walked over to the small table near the window and sat down. Opened my bank app again. Scrolled. Transfer after transfer. Different amounts. Different dates. All going to the same place. I tried to remember each one. This one was for a bill. This one was because something broke. This one was because Ryan needed help. There was always a reason. Always something urgent. Always something that made it feel like I didn't really have a choice. I tapped one of the earlier transactions. It was from 3 months ago. A bigger amount than usual. I remembered that one. She said the electricity was about to get shut off. I sent it immediately. No questions. I even skipped paying part of my own credit card that month to make it work. My eyes moved to the next one. Then the next. The pattern was there. I just never looked at it like a pattern before. My phone buzzed. A message from her. Don't take too long. I really need this. I stared at it. Then another one came in. I didn't raise you to be like this. That one hit. Because that was always the line that worked. The one that made me feel like whatever I was doing was wrong. Like I was becoming someone I wasn't supposed to be. But sitting there, looking at everything laid out in front of me, something else started forming instead. A different question. Not, how much do I owe her? But, why do I feel like I owe her at all? I leaned back in my chair, exhaled slowly, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't rush to fix it. I didn't open my banking app again. I didn't calculate what I could move around. I didn't message her back. I just sat there. And let the silence stay. Because something in me was starting to shift. And I didn't want to interrupt it. I think the first time I understood what owing her meant wasn't when she said it. It was when I realized I didn't have a choice. I was around 16 when I got my first real paycheck. Nothing big. Just a weekend job at a small grocery store in Toledo, bagging items, stocking shelves, doing whatever they needed. I remember how proud I felt holding that envelope. It wasn't even that much money, but it was mine. I earned it. I had plans for it too. Small things. A pair of shoes I actually liked. Maybe saving a little. Just something that felt like it belonged to me. When I got home, she was sitting at the kitchen table. She looked up and smiled when she saw the envelope in my hand. Let me see, she said. I handed it over without thinking. She opened it, counted it right there in front of me, then nodded. Good, she said. You're learning. I smiled a little. Yeah. Then she pulled out a pen from the drawer. That part. I didn't understand at the time. She grabbed a small notebook. The kind you use for grocery lists. Flipped it open like she'd been using it for a while. And then she wrote something down. What's that? I asked. Just keeping track, she said casually. Of what? She didn't even look up. What you contribute. Something in my chest tightened a little, but I ignored it. Oh, I said. Then she slid some of the cash back to me. Not all of it. Here, she said. You don't need that much. You live here. I nodded. Because, yeah, that made sense, right? I didn't question it. The next week, it was the same. Then the week after that. And after a while, it stopped feeling like she was asking. It just became expected. If I ever hesitated, even for a second, she'd look at me a certain way. You're not seriously keeping all of that, she'd say. I just thought I'd start. Thought what? She'd cut in. That you don't have responsibilities? Responsibilities. That word got used a lot. More than thank you. More than good job. More than anything else. If I made $200, I kept maybe $80. Sometimes less. If something came up, and something always came up, I kept almost nothing. There's a bill, she'd say. Ryan needs something, she'd say. Things cost money, she'd remind me. And then the line that always ended it. Nothing in this house is free. Ryan never had to hand anything over. He had jobs here and there, but it was always treated differently. He's still figuring things out, she'd say. Like I wasn't. Like I never got that phase. I remember one time I asked her about it. It slipped out before I could stop myself. Why does Ryan get to keep his money? She didn't even hesitate. Because he doesn't make as much as you. That wasn't even true. But it didn't matter. I knew better than to argue. Because arguing didn't change anything. It just made things harder. The notebook kept filling up. I saw it sometimes when she left it out. Dates. Numbers. Notes. Groceries. Electric. School. And next to some entries, my name. Or just a number I recognized as my paycheck. I didn't ask about it again. I just adjusted. I stopped making plans for my money. Stopped thinking about what I wanted. Because it didn't feel like mine long enough to matter. By the time I was 18, it wasn't just my paycheck anymore. It was anything I had. Birthday money. Holiday money. Cash from relatives. It all passed through her first. Let me hold on to it, she'd say. I'll keep it safe. Safe meant I wouldn't see it again. I knew that. But I still handed it over. Because every time I thought about saying no, I heard it already. After everything I've done for you. It didn't feel like a sentence anymore. It felt like a fact. Like gravity. Like something you don't question. I remember one specific night. It stuck with me more than the others. I had just gotten paid. It was a decent week. I worked extra shifts, covered for someone, stayed late. I was exhausted, but I was proud. I came home, and she was already waiting. Not in an obvious way. Just there. Sitting at the table. Same spot. Same notebook. Long day, she asked. Yeah, I said. Good, she replied. That's how you build character. I gave her the envelope. She counted it again. Wrote something down. Then she paused. How much do you think you owe me? She asked. I blinked. What? All of this, she said, tapping the notebook. Everything I've spent on you. Food. Clothes. School. This house. You think that's free? My throat went dry. I don't know, I said quietly. She smiled, but it wasn't warm. It's more than this, she said, tapping the cash. A lot more. I stood there, not sure what to say. Don't worry, she added. You'll pay it back eventually. Eventually. Like it was a timeline already set. Like my future was already accounted for. I nodded. Because what else was I supposed to do? That night, I went to my room and sat on my bed, staring at the small stack of money she gave back to me. It felt smaller than it should have. Not just physically. Just less. Like it already belonged to someone else. That was the moment something shifted. Not enough to change anything yet. But enough that I started noticing. Noticing how often money came up. How every conversation could turn into it. How every I love you had something attached. How every favor had a weight. I still gave her everything she asked for after that. I didn't fight it. Didn't push back. But I started keeping track in my own way. Not in a notebook. Just in my head. Every time she said I owed her. Every time I handed something over. Every time Ryan didn't have to. I didn't call it unfair. I didn't even let myself think that word. I just remembered. And I think part of me believed that one day, it would make sense. That there would be a point where she'd say, okay, you've done enough. Where the number would stop growing. Where I could finally just keep something for myself without feeling like I was taking it. But that moment never came. Because the truth was, the number was never meant to be paid off. I just didn't realize it yet. By the time I moved out, I thought the hardest part was over. I was wrong. I left Toledo when I was 23. It wasn't some dramatic escape. No big fight, no slam doors. I just packed my things slowly over a few weeks, signed a lease with a girl named Angela Ramsey, and told my mom I was ready to be on my own. She didn't argue the way I expected. That should have been my first warning. She just looked at me and said, if you think you're ready. Not supportive. Not upset. Just neutral. And somehow that felt worse. The apartment was small, nothing special. 2 bedrooms, thin walls, a kitchen that barely fit 2 people at once. But it felt quiet in a way I'd never experienced before. The first night there, I remember sitting on the floor with Angela, eating takeout straight from the containers, laughing about nothing. It felt light. No tension. No expectation. No one keeping score. For the first time, I had money in my account that I didn't immediately have to hand over. It wasn't a lot. But it stayed there. That alone felt strange. Angela noticed it too, in her own way. You check your bank app a lot, she said one night, half joking. I shrugged. Just making sure everything's good. She laughed. If the money's still there, it's good. That concept felt foreign. Money staying where I put it. Not disappearing into someone else's needs. For a while, things were okay. My mom called often, but it wasn't about money at first. It was the usual stuff. You don't visit enough. You forgot about me already. Ryan asked about you. Guilt, but softer. Manageable. I visited when I could. Brought groceries sometimes. Small things. I thought maybe things had changed. Then the calls shifted. It started small. Hey, can you help with the bill this month? Nothing unusual. I sent it without thinking. Then a few weeks later, something broke. I just need a little help. I sent that too. Then, Ryan's short on rent. Just this once. Always, just this once. It never felt like a pattern while it was happening. Because each situation felt separate. Urgent. Specific. Reasonable. But slowly, my account started looking familiar again. Money coming in. Money going out. Not all of it like before. But enough that I started adjusting my own life around it. I'd delay buying things I needed. Push bills a little later. Tell myself I'd catch up next month. I didn't tell Angela. Not at first. It felt embarrassing. Like I should have had more control now that I was out. But one night, she noticed. We were sitting at the small kitchen table, going through our expenses, making sure rent and utilities were covered. She glanced at my screen. You sent another transfer? She asked. I hesitated. Yeah, dear Mom. I nodded. She leaned back slightly, studying me. Not judging. Just noticing. How often do you do that? I don't know, I said quickly. Just when she needs help. Angela didn't respond right away. Then she said, does she need help that often? I didn't like that question. Not because it was wrong. Because I didn't have an answer that made sense. She's just going through stuff, I said. Angela nodded slowly, like she was choosing not to push. Okay, she said. But I could tell she didn't fully buy it. And, honestly, neither did I. The next few months blurred together. Work. Rent. Bills. And in between all of that, her calls. Always with a reason. Always with that same tone. Like I was the solution. Like I was supposed to be. If I ever hesitated, even slightly, the shift happened immediately. Oh, never mind, she'd say. I'll figure it out myself. But it never sounded like she would. It sounded like she wanted me to feel something. And I did. Every time. So I'd send it anyway. Ryan started messaging me more too. Not directly asking for money. Just hinting. Things are tight right now. Mom's stressed. You know how she gets. Yeah, I knew exactly how she got. And somehow, even from a different city, it still worked. The pressure. The expectation. It didn't stay in that house in Toledo. It followed me. I just didn't realize how much until something small happened. Something that shouldn't have mattered as much as it did. I needed new shoes. Nothing fancy. Just work shoes. Mine were worn out, the soles thinning, starting to hurt after long days. I went to a store after work, picked out a pair, stood there holding them. And then I checked my bank app. Habit. There was enough money. Technically. But I had sent a transfer 2 days before. And another one the week before that. I stood there for a long time. Looking at those shoes. Doing the math in my head. If I buy these, I'll have less. If she calls again. I put them back. Walked out of the store. That's when it hit me. Nothing had actually changed. Different apartment. Different city. Same pattern. Same feeling. Same quiet calculation of what I was allowed to keep. I went home that night and didn't say anything to Angela. But I sat on my bed, staring at my phone, scrolling through my transactions again. Trying to make it make sense. Trying to convince myself it was temporary. That this was just a phase. That eventually it would stop. That eventually I wouldn't feel like this every time I spent money on myself. But deep down, I think I already knew. It wasn't going to stop. Because it never had. The promotion should have felt like a turning point. Instead, it felt like a test. I remember the day Scott King called me into his office in Aurora. I thought I had done something wrong. That was still my default. Anytime a manager wanted to talk, my first instinct was to prepare for criticism. But he just closed the door, sat down, and said, "You've been handling more than your role for a while now." I didn't know how to respond to that. I just nodded. "You're organized, you don't miss things, and you don't complain," he continued. "That matters here." Again, I nodded. Then he said, "We want to move you into a higher position. More responsibility, better pay." Better pay. That was the part that stuck. I don't even remember exactly what I said after that. Something like, "Thank you," probably. Something small. Controlled. But inside, something shifted. Not excitement, exactly. More like relief. Like maybe finally, I could get ahead. The raise wasn't huge, but it was enough to make a difference. Enough that I didn't have to calculate every purchase down to the last dollar. Enough that I could actually start saving without feeling like I was one unexpected expense away from falling behind. For a few weeks, I didn't tell my mom. Not on purpose. I just didn't. And during those weeks, something changed. My account started growing. Slowly, but noticeably. I paid my bills on time. I bought groceries without checking prices 3 times. I even replaced my shoes. The same kind I had put back months earlier. It felt small. But it also felt like something I had never really experienced before. Normal. Then I made the mistake of mentioning it. It was a quick call. Casual. "I got promoted," I said. There was a pause. Then, "Oh," she said. "That's good." Her tone was flat. Not proud. Not excited. Just acknowledging. "Yeah," I said. "It's a bit more responsibility, but it's good." Another pause. "So you're making more now?" she asked. There it was. I should have expected it. "Yeah, a little," I said. She laughed lightly. "A little. Right." I didn't respond. We changed the subject after that. Talked about something else. Ryan, I think. Or the weather. Something that didn't matter. But the shift had already happened. I could feel it. A week later, she called again. This time, it wasn't casual. "I need to ask you something," she said. Her tone was different. Careful. Measured. "Okay," I said. "I need a loan." The word loan stood out immediately. She had never called it that before. "How much?" I asked. She told me. And my chest tightened. It was more than anything she had asked for before. Not just a little more. A lot more. I didn't answer right away. "Hello," she said. "I heard you," I replied. "I'm just thinking." Thinking. The same word I used before. But this time, it felt heavier. Because now, I actually had something to protect. My savings. Small, but real. Mine. "I really need it," she added quickly. "This isn't like before." That line didn't comfort me. It made me more uneasy. "What's it for?" I asked. There was that pause again. "Just expenses," she said. Things piled up. "What kind of expenses?" "Why does it matter?" she snapped. I said I need it. Because it does matter. The thought came up immediately. But saying it out loud felt dangerous. "I just want to understand," I said carefully. "You're overthinking this," she replied. "I'm your mother. That should be enough." There it was. That familiar pressure. That expectation. The same one that had worked every time before. But now, it didn't land the same. Because I could see the numbers. I could see what I had. And what I would lose if I sent that amount. I can't send that right now, I said. The words felt heavy. But once they were out, I couldn't take them back. Silence. Then, quietly, what do you mean you can't? I mean I need to think about it, I said. You need to think about helping your own mother? She asked. Her voice was calm. Too calm. It's a lot, I said. And I've spent more than that on you, she replied immediately. Of course. That again. I closed my eyes for a second. Mom, do you have any idea how much it costs to raise a child? She continued. Food, clothes, school, everything? And now, when I need help, you hesitate. I felt it. That pull. That automatic guilt. But underneath it, something else. Something steadier. I've been helping, I said. For years. And, she said. You think that's enough? Enough. That word echoed. Because for the first time, I realized something. There was no enough. No number that would satisfy this. No point where she would say, okay, you've done your part. The number just kept growing. I'm not saying no, I said slowly. I just need time. That was the most honest thing I could say. Because I wasn't ready to fully refuse. Not yet. But I wasn't ready to give in either. You've changed, she said. It wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. Just final. I haven't, I replied. You have, she insisted. You think you're better now because you make a little more money. That's not true. Then prove it, she said. Send the money. There it was. Not a conversation. A test. And I was supposed to pass it the same way I always had. By giving in. My hand tightened slightly around my phone. I can't do it right now, I said. Another silence. Longer this time. Then she said, very calmly, I see. And hung up. I stared at my phone for a long time after that. The room felt different. Quieter. But heavier. Like something had just shifted in a way I couldn't undo. My phone buzzed a few minutes later. A message from her. I didn't raise you to be like this. I read it once. Then again. And for the first time. Instead of immediately trying to fix it. I just sat there. And didn't respond. I didn't respond to her message that night. Or the next day. That alone felt strange. Unnatural. Like I was breaking a rule I didn't even realize I'd been following my whole life. My phone kept lighting up. First from her. Then from Ryan. Then from a number I hadn't seen in a while. Cynthia. I hadn't talked to my aunt in months. Not because anything happened. Just distance. Life. The usual. I hesitated before answering. Then I picked up. Hi, I said. Nicole, she replied, her voice calm, steady. Do you have a minute? Something in her tone made me sit down. Yeah, I said. There was a small pause. I heard there's some tension between you and your mom, she said carefully. Of course she heard. Yeah, I replied. I guess. She's upset, Cynthia said. I almost laughed at that. I figured, I said. Another pause. Then she said something I didn't expect. She's been saying similar things for a long time. That made me frown. What do you mean? I mean, Cynthia continued, this isn't new. You just weren't seeing it the same way before. That sat with me for a second. I don't understand, I said. Cynthia sighed softly, like she was choosing her words. Your mom has always kept track, she said. Of things. Of what she gives. What she gets. My chest tightened. I know, I said. She's mentioned it. She's mentioned it to a lot of people, Cynthia replied. Not just you. That caught me off guard. What do you mean? I mean she talks about it, Cynthia said. How much she's spent. How much she's owed. Not just with you. In general. That didn't feel good. Not surprising. But not good. I thought it was just something she said to me, I admitted. No, Cynthia said gently. It's how she sees things. Silence settled between us. Then I asked the question I hadn't wanted to ask. Is she actually struggling? Another pause. Longer this time. She's not in a great position, Cynthia said carefully. But she's not where she says she is. What does that mean? It means she has enough for her basics, Cynthia said. She's not about to lose the house. She's not missing meals. My grip on the phone tightened. Then where is the money going? I asked. Cynthia hesitated. Some of it goes to Ryan, she said. Of course. That I figured, I said. And some of it, she paused, goes to things she doesn't really want to explain. I didn't push further. Because honestly, I didn't need details. The point was already clear. It wasn't what she told me. Not even close. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. I've been sending her money for years, I said quietly. I know, Cynthia replied. And she's been telling people I owe her, I added. Yes. The confirmation landed harder than I expected. Because it wasn't just something between me and my mom anymore. It was a narrative. Something she had built. Something other people knew. Something I had been part of without realizing it. I thought I was helping, I said. You were, Cynthia said. But not in the way you think. That didn't make sense. What does that mean? It means, she said gently, you've been reinforcing something she already believed. I closed my eyes. That hurt. Not because it was wrong. Because it felt right. Too right. I don't know what to do, I admitted. You do, Cynthia said. I didn't respond. Because I did. I just didn't want to say it out loud. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time. My phone was quiet now. No new messages. No new calls. Just silence. But it wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. Because everything was starting to line up. The transfers. The vague explanations. Ryan's messages. The way she reacted when I asked questions. The way she kept bringing up everything she's done for me. And then something clicked. Something small, but sharp. The notebook. I hadn't thought about it in years. But suddenly, I could see it clearly. The pages. The numbers. The way she wrote everything down. I grabbed my phone and opened my messages. Scrolled back. Months of transfers. Years, if I really went through everything. I didn't need to count it. I already knew it was a lot. More than I ever actually had to give. More than I should have been expected to give. My phone buzzed again. A message from Ryan. You're really gonna do this? I stared at it. Then another one. Mom's stressed. You know how she gets. Yeah, I did. But now, it looked different. It didn't feel like pressure anymore. It felt like a pattern. One I had been part of for too long. I typed a response. Then erased it. Typed again. Stopped. Because for the first time, I realized something. I didn't owe an explanation. Not the kind they expected. Not the kind that led to me giving in again. I locked my phone and set it down. And just sat there. Letting it all settle. Because this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about something bigger. Something I hadn't allowed myself to fully see before. This wasn't help. It was control. And the moment I stopped participating, everything around me was going to change. I just didn't know how much. Or how loud it would get. I didn't respond to Ryan. Not that night. Not the next morning either. I went to work like everything was normal. Sat at my desk, opened my emails, went through my tasks. On the outside, nothing looked different. But inside, everything felt quieter. Not peaceful. Just still. Like something was waiting. Around noon, my phone buzzed. Mom. I stared at the screen for a second. Then I answered. Hello. She didn't greet me. So this is how you're going to be now, she said. Straight to it. I just needed some time, I replied. You've had time, she snapped. I asked you for something simple. Simple. That word almost made me laugh. It's not simple, I said. It's a lot of money. It's nothing compared to what I've spent on you, she shot back immediately. Of course. That again. I leaned back in my chair, keeping my voice steady. You keep saying that. Because it's true. But you won't tell me what this money is actually for, I said. Silence. Then I don't have to justify myself to you. There it was. Clear. Sharp. No more pretending. I'm not sending it, I said. The words came out before I could soften them. Before I could turn them into something easier to accept. Just flat. I'm not sending it. The silence that followed felt different this time. Not controlled. Not calm. Tense. You're really saying no, she said slowly. Yes. You're refusing to help your own mother. I've been helping, I said. For years. And now you stop when I actually need it? That's the thing, I replied. I don't know that you actually need it. That did it. Her voice changed instantly. How dare you, she said. Louder now. Sharper. After everything I've done for you, you're questioning me like this? You think I'm lying to you? I think you're not telling me everything, I said. That's the same thing, she snapped. No, it's not. It is to me, she said. You don't trust me. That's what this is. I took a breath. Because this was the part where I usually backed down. Where I apologized. Where I fixed it. But I didn't. I don't think this is about trust, I said slowly. I think this is about you expecting me to always say yes. She let out a short, bitter laugh. So now I'm the problem. I didn't say that. You don't have to, she said. It's obvious. I closed my eyes for a second. Because part of me still wanted to fix it. To make it softer. To make her understand without hurting her. But I also knew that version of this conversation always ended the same way. With me giving in. I'm not sending the money, I said again. Quieter this time. But steadier. There was a long pause. Then she said, very calmly, I didn't raise you to be like this. That line again. The one that always worked. The one that made me feel like I was doing something wrong just by choosing myself. I waited for it to hit the same way. For the guilt. For the panic. For the need to fix it. But this time, it didn't land the same. Because now I could hear what was underneath it. Not disappointment. Not hurt. Control. I know, I said. And I meant it. I know you didn't. Silence. Real silence this time. Then she hung up. I stared at my phone for a few seconds before setting it down. My hands were shaking a little. Not from fear. Just from the weight of it. Because that was it. That was the moment. The one I had been avoiding for years. And it was over. Or at least, it had started. My phone didn't stay quiet for long. Messages came in. From her. From Ryan. Long texts. Short ones. Missed calls. Voicemails. I didn't open them right away. I let them sit. Not as some kind of statement. Just because I needed space to breathe. When I finally did read them, it was exactly what I expected. You've changed. You're selfish. You think you're better than us now. You're making things harder for everyone. Ryan sent one that stuck with me. You know she's stressed. Why are you doing this? I stared at that one for a long time. Because for the first time, I had an answer. I just didn't send it. The next few weeks were loud. Not in my apartment. There, it was quiet. But in my phone. In the messages. In the calls I didn't answer. The pressure didn't stop immediately. It pushed harder. Like it always did. But I didn't respond the same way anymore. I didn't send anything. Not just this once. Not just to help. Nothing. And slowly, the noise started to fade. The messages got shorter. Less frequent. The calls stopped coming as often. Until one day, they just didn't. And that silence felt different. Not heavy. Not tense. Just empty. In a way that wasn't entirely bad. It's been about 8 months now. We still talk. Sometimes. Short calls. Surface-level conversations. How are you? I'm fine. That's good. No money. No pressure. No, you owe me. Not out loud, anyway. Ryan barely reaches out anymore. When he does, it's the same. Polite. Distant. Like we all just agreed not to touch that part of things. I don't know if anything really changed for them. I don't know if she found another way. Or if she just adjusted. I stopped trying to figure it out. Because for the first time, I wasn't part of it anymore. I signed my lease last month. A full year. My place. Mine. I bought furniture without checking if I'd need that money later for someone else. I replaced things when they broke. I even started saving in a way that actually stayed. And sometimes, I still feel it. That guilt. It shows up in small moments. When I see her name on my phone. When I hear something about family. When I think about everything she did do for me. Because it wasn't nothing. That's the part that makes it hard. She wasn't always wrong. She did take care of me. She did provide. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being care. And started being something else. And I don't know exactly where that line is. Or if I crossed it. Or if I just finally saw it. All I know is, for the first time in my life, I can sit in my own space, look at what I have, and not feel like it already belongs to someone else. And I don't know if that makes me selfish. Or just finally free.